You guys want to come see my show? It's really good. The stand-up show on my great grandma's kind of slutty. It's very funny. Last year I did two things that I always wanted to do. I recorded my first hour, like an album or a special, and I took my first solo show to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And I made so many fucking mistakes. I fucked up a ton. I didn't pay for a publicist because I thought working in PR would like get me along, but it didn't. I spent hours each day handing out flyers to like idiots, you know, and begging them basically to come to the show. And sometimes they did, but mostly they didn't, you know. I went insane over there, you know. I shaved my mustache. I drank for the first time in like 8 years. I ate meat for the first time in like 8 years. It was nuts. I'm pretty sure I got COVID again one day. That's true. Oh yeah, also, the show's fucking weird. In the edit, you'd never really see my face that much. That's because, it's not the cameraman's fault, it's just because I'm a weird ass and my face was blotchy and I looked like crap. But the show's still good without it. I think it adds to the weirdness of it. There's parts that drag. That's not good on a show when there's never that many people in the room. There's 25 people in this room. Pretty much a sellout. It was really great. And what's the last thing? Oh, spoiler alert. There's a ghost that shows up. So please, yeah, enjoy. For coming to my show, my grandma's great day. Give it up yourself real quick. Come on. I love it. I love it. You guys are fantastic, beautiful folks. So I'm going to tell you first off, this show, sometimes I'm going to be on this, sometimes I'm not, because it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I project and the walls are crazy. My name is Patrick. I'm a stand-up comedian from New York, and I'm going to do a show tonight. This show is stand-up, but it's also get the fuck out of here. 1 minute, 30 seconds in, and then she comes up here and we do a fucking beautiful ballet, and you're all, none of you know. But yeah, seriously, turn your phone the fuck off. I'm just kidding, but I am serious. This is a stand-up show. I'm going to do stand-up comedy, but there's going to be parts where I'm just telling you stories that have heart to them, okay? Now, what I've learned while doing this festival is sometimes people don't fucking understand any of that, you know what I mean? And so sometimes they're going to be like, oh, I thought this was going to be just a joke, and then sometimes they're like, oh, I thought there was going to be a moral, and I don't think there's either of those tonight, you know? Also, if you're a reviewer, go ahead and get out, okay? I don't do this for you, I do it for me. I'll call the cops on you. Unless you want to write 5 stars, that'd be sick, okay? Anybody, you can write 5 stars, say, sick. Okay, my name is Patrick. I am going to do stand-up in about 11 minutes, but first I just want to talk to you guys about the safety issues. There's a door in the back. I'm just kidding. I'm a comedian from New York. I grew up on a farm, though, in the Midwest. Anybody in here grew up on a farm? Yeah? Are you fucking kidding with me?
Well, it's... Yeah, no, not really.
Yeah, you're lying to my fucking face in front of all my friends. Explain it.
Well, we've got some chickens at home. We're
Back.
Mostly, yeah, a lot of animals around. There's a lot of arable.
A lot of what?
A lot of arable, so mostly crops and that kind of thing.
Sure. Corn. Soy?
Rapeseed and...
Rapeseed?
Hops, yeah.
Hops? Oh, for beers. Okay.
Yeah.
Sick. I love it. God damn, I love farm. I grew up on a farm. And I loved living on a farm. It was cool, you know? But, and I respected the farm, but I wasn't meant to be on the farm, you know? You guys can tell by looking at me, I'm a weak grown-up, okay? I'm like a weak man right now. Every one of you could kick my ass, and you probably will at some point. Growing up on the farm, I was a super weak little boy, and I just didn't have my hometown was a really small town in this place called Iowa, and that's just not what my energy was, okay? Like, I have, like, New York City energy, okay? You know, like, we'd be at my local grocery store when I was a kid, and my dad would be like, howdy, and then I'd be like, get the fuck out of the way! I'm farms, you know? And that was the energy I always had as a little kid, but I wasn't good on the farm, you know? My dad, Carl, okay? Carl with a K, fucking, he was good on the farm. He's a man, you know? It was fun, though. I did like growing up on the farm. There was good parts of it. But I live in New York City now. New York City, big city. It's really cool. You clap if you've ever been to New York City. Oh, yeah, that was my good. You guys haven't been there? You gotta go. It's so great, yeah. It's fine. You don't have to, but if you want to, look me up. I love New York City. New York City is like my place. It's what I should be at, and it's my home. My wife and I, we live there. And last year, my parents, Carl and Joanne, they came out for the first time to come visit, which was really cool. We loved them. They'd both been out separately, but they had never been able to do the whole trip. And so they come out, and before they come out, we get phone calls. They have to like preface stuff. Now, I'll let you guys know, my parents are sweet, loving, great people from the Midwestern United States, which also means they're conservative, and you all know who they voted for, okay? They're not bad. They just got duped by this thing called Fox News, okay? My dad, I was just like, Dad, how could you fall for that? And he doesn't understand it. And then I was like, I guess it's just because my dad's kind of like a nihilist, you know? Like, it's not like he didn't believe in all that horseshit rhetoric. He just wants to watch the world burn, you know? And he's like, well, how can I help the world burn? I know, I could vote for Trump, right? That guy's getting us close. He's like a nihilist. That's the bottom line. I told him that to his face, too. I told my dad to his face, I was like, Dad, you're a nihilist. And he goes, well, you know, I've always been more of a Frasier guy. I'm like, you fucking idiot, Carl. It was great. My mom, she called me beforehand, and she goes, hey, when we go places, like we go to the Empire State Building, are they going to wand me? And I was like, what is this, like a Harry Potter thing? What are you talking about? And she's like, well, because of my gun. And I was like, yeah, I forget. My mom carries a gun, sure, yeah. I'm like a cartoon character of the Americans, you know? Yeah, my mom carries a gun because she's 66 and terrified. And so the state of Iowa was like, well, we better arm her, you know? In case shit goes down at the Walmart and she needs to shoot herself in the foot, you know? She does, and I told her, I was like, Mom, I love you so much. Don't bring your gun. There's no reason to bring your gun. My parents think New York City is the New York City from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies, you know? Like, they think everybody's, like, stealing TVs off trucks and joining the Foot Clan, and I'm like, that's not it. It's a coffee shops and fucking, you know, there's a lot of piss smell, but still. But I was like, just don't bring your gun to New York. And she's like, fine, I won't. I was like, what a life. And then they finally do. They come out to New York and they get out there, and it was really fun. It was great showing them that aspect of my life. You know, the older you get, when you got to start seeing your parents as, like, people, that was cool. Showing them our spots, letting them meet our friends and stuff. And one day my dad out of the blue just goes, hey, you know what I want to see? I want to see the Chrysler building. And I was like, who cares? Why? Like, if you don't know, that's like one of our worst buildings, you know? Like, that's, like, Chrysler doesn't even give a shit about that building anymore. It's, like, ugly and dumb. But he's like, I'd love to see the Chrysler building. And I was like, fucking, okay, man. And so, one day we're walking on the street, and I see that big, ugly-ass Chrysler building, like, sticking out of the sky. And I go, hey, Dad, look, it's your building. And he's like, what? And I was like, right there, it's your Chrysler building. And he goes, what the fuck? And then he pulls out his phone and opens his photos and shows me a photo of the Eiffel Tower. And I was like, oh no, Dad. No, that's in Paris. And actually, that one's in Las Vegas, dude. Your mistake. We go down in the subway. It was the first time my mom was ever in the subway, and it was great. We saw a big old New York sewer rat run across the tracks, and Suan's like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah, you know, de Blasio or whatever, you know? And she's like, we gotta do something. And I was like, what do you want to do? And she's like, we gotta tell somebody. And I was like, about the rat? Who do you want to tell? And she's like, I don't know, the manager? And I was like, Mom, I think that rat is the manager. I think that rat is in charge of New York City, you know? I'm just glad she wasn't packing, you know? She fucking puts two in them, and then we strap it to the top of the G train and head home and have it for dinner, you know? She would have cooked it well. She would have cooked it good. No seasoning, but it would have tasted fine. I love them, though. They're really great people. But, okay, so the last day we were there, we decided to go to the we decided to go to the Ellis Island, right? And that's where, if you visited New York and you've ever been there, that's where the Statue of Liberty is. And that's also where everybody in the, 1800s, that's where the migration came through, where everybody that came over, like, have you ever seen the beginning of Godfather Part 2, that's where they'd be like, what's your name? And then you tell them, and they'd be like, no, that's not your name anymore. And then they give you a new name. That's how it worked. But you could go there too. And so we go there and we see the stuff before we go there. It's like, like an airport, We got to get on a boat to go to the island. And there's security, and we're walking in, and there's a guy wanding people, and immediately my mom's like, hey, glad I left my gun back at your apartment. And I was like, our apartment? Okay, so it is in Brooklyn. Good, you did bring it here. And so we're going through, and then they got to put your stuff through like one of those things like from the airport, And my mom's got a little purse, like a little tiny clutch, and they put it through, and it just starts going off like a fucking, like a slot machine, And I'm like, oh no, and the security guard comes over and opens it up. And then he pulls out, I'm not kidding, 5 different pepper spray canisters, okay? 5 different colors and sizes and shit. And I was just like, gee, like the whole purse was just pepper. It made me think maybe that wasn't a purse, Maybe that's just the bag they send you when you buy 5 assorted pepper sprays on the internet. And I was like, Mom, why do you have so many pepper sprays? And she's like, well, you wouldn't let me bring the gat. And I was like, God damn it, dude. But then we get over there to the island, and it's fun. We see the statue and whatever, and we go into the big room where back in the 1800s, it's where you would walk in and queue up to go get your citizenship. But now it's just like a cool museum type place. And they have these kiosks all over where you can type in your information and find out about your family's heritage. And my family, we've always been very big on our genealogy and shit. And my dad's family, the Hasties, we're strong. We're from Scotland. We've always known that. Actually, this alley out here is called Hastie's Close that the bar is on. And I found out, I realized about the third day in that is what I should have done the show about, like the Hastie family, Because that's not what this show's about. It's about a fucking different family that's from Ireland. But I love that it's Hastie's Close because that is also a perfect review for this show, Like, hey, how was Patrick's show? Hastie's Close. Yeah, it's almost good. It's almost fun, But so my dad, he knows his stuff, he knows the Hasties, he starts putting his name in the kiosk, and he right away gets some hits. He finds out that his grandpa's dad, he found the manifest from the ship when he came over from Scotland. He went down to Portsmouth and then hopped a boat all the way over, and he saw the names and everything. He even got to see his grandpa's dad's signature, which is awesome. You don't think you're going to see something like that. Saw a photo of the boat and everything, or a drawing of the boat, and it's cool because they let you print all this information out on a nice, laminated paper, and my dad's like, that's how they get you. So instead he just took photos of it with his phone, So I loved that day, my dad's phone was just like, Trump meme, the Eiffel Tower, and then, his great-grandpa's signature, and that's pretty cool, on, a blurry screen. But my mom, she searched her history. Now, my mom's side of the family, their last name was Moore. They're from County Cork in Ireland. And they go back all these years to her grandpa's grandpa who came over from there named Oliver. And my mom's searching. She can't fucking find nothing, okay? It exists, but it's just not easy to find in the database. And she's kind of like a main character syndrome person, she's kind of a narcissist. So she was upset that Carl got to have something and she didn't, so she brought out another gun. And no, she was just mad and being kind of snippy about it. And when we go back to my apartment that night, it's their last night in New York City, and I'm like, we can go do anything. What do you guys want to do? And my mom's like, what if we got on Ancestry.com and started looking up my family? And I was like, okay, that is what we're doing. You're the mom, okay. And she's like, you're fucking right! Yeah, I know. But we go on there, and what's cool, if you've ever used Ancestry.com, it's this weird place. It's similar to Facebook, and it's bad, but not in the same ways that Facebook is bad. You know what I mean? Different ways it's bad. It's a big thing, if you and I, if we were, let's say we were distant cousins, but we shared, a great uncle or some shit, who was from, the 1800s, and then your family had a photo of him, you could upload it, and then I'd see it, and I'd be like, oh, that's what that old bald fuck looks like, cool, That's what it's for. And then it also has a lot of documents, military documents, birth certificates, stuff like that. So it's cool, my mom's showing me her family on there, and I had known these people, some of them, their names, but I didn't know. So I get to see my mom's dad, Johnny, who's great, Johnny Moore, loved him, really cool guy. His dad, Ralph Moore, piece of shit. We hated Ralph, okay? He's dead to us. Yeah, also he's dead. He died in the 70s. But he's got everybody on 3 say, fuck you, Ralph, okay? 1, 2, 3.
Fuck you, Ralph.
That's right, fuck you, Ralph. I love it. I hope he heard that in hell. It's like, the fuck did I do, you know? But so, Ralph sucked. So my grandpa wasn't raised by his dad. He was raised by his grandfather, Wiley. Wiley kicked ass. Wiley was a great man. He taught him what it was like to be a man, and not just to be a man, but to be a good man, to be a good Catholic, what it was like, what it meant to be Irish, and to be fun and funny and sweet, and to love your family. My family never had that shit where somebody's just stoic and there's no, like, everyone knew to say I love you and hug and shit like that. And that was all from Wiley passed down. And Wiley also told the family story. Oliver, his dad, came over from Ireland, was in the Civil War, you know? Just a good man. And so we look at Oliver, and that's cool, because my grandpa's dad, that's the name of the show, by the way. It's a pretty cool moment. My grandpa's dad, Oliver, he was from Cork. He married his wife. His wife, her name, my grandpa's mom, is Dicey, that's her name, Dicey Moore. I don't know if you guys know, Dicey is an Irish name that means don't trust this lady, okay? Like, it's an Irish name that actually translates into don't let her watch your laptop if you have to go to the bathroom at Starbucks, okay? Because it's not going to work out. But Dicey was my grandpa's mom, and they grew up in this town together in Illinois, and they met and got married in 1857. And then in 1862, they were starting their life together, but the American Civil War broke out, okay? And Oliver had to go join the army, the good army, the Union side, okay? He was on I know some of you guys might not be American Civil War history buffs like I am, but I Googled it, and the North was the good guys. So he joined the Union Army in 1862, and then sadly he died while in the Army in 1863. He was only in the Army for a year, and he died. And he died in one of the worst ways that anyone could die in war. It's still to this day one of the worst ways you could die. You see his medical records, and on the military medical records it said that his cause of death was extreme diarrhea. Which, fuck. One, awesome band name, right? I mean, how good? You'd buy tickets, yes you would. But terrible way to go. I'd rather have my head shot off by a cannon, from a Confederate soldier than shit myself to death in a 1860s American toilet, ugh. So he's dead, 1863, he's gone. And then we noticed a weird thing. I'm poking over my mom's shoulder, and I'm like, this is fucked up. And she's like, what? And I was like, well, it says right there that Oliver died in 1863, but his son Wiley wasn't born until 1868, And after a couple minutes, I was like, that's a 5-year difference, It takes me a while to do math. I fucking hate math, guys. And my mom's like, oh, that is weird. That's intriguing. And okay, so that's when it was over for my mom. She ended up leaving, went home, didn't think about it. I did not stop thinking about this fucking thing. I was like, what does this mean? Okay? And so, because here's the deal. Wiley was born 5 years after his dad died. His last name was Moore. He thought that was his dad. That's what he was always told. But he also had brothers. He had younger brothers. There was John, Elkanah, and Samuel. So there's these 4 boys all born long after their dad died. They all think that's their dad. All raised by their mom, Dicey. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Who did Dicey fuck? Like, what is happening? Who's my real grandpa's dad? That's what I want to find out. And so I get really into this. I created my own Ancestry.com account. I start reading the fucking American census and shit like that, which is really tough to read. It's all handwritten. They didn't have fucking, MacBooks back then and shit. And so it's like really tough. And I see that in 1860, Dicey lived with Oliver in Illinois. In 1870, she lived with all the kids. You fucking hate this, don't you? Are you on board?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I just realized that you're like younger, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is
family trees.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. Okay, my favorite. Everybody go crazy for Oliver, everybody. This is my grandma's dad. Sorry about that. I'm in the moment sometimes, I'm also on mescaline, so I started doing the research, and in the 1870 census, Dicey and the 4 boys live in this place in Missouri that's like 7 hours from where they grew up. And they live with this man named Samuel Hollingsworth. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Samuel Hollingsworth. That's the fucking grandpa's dad. That's who's fucking Dicey. But then I look, and he is 85 years old. Okay? Dicey's 35, okay? Yuck! Gross! 2023. Can you imagine how smelly sex was in the 1860s? Also, the man you're fucking is 85 years old. Like, it's just I'd rather get my head blown off by a Confederate cannon. But seriously. But so then I'm like, wait, so she fucked the old man? That's super weird. And or maybe it was like some sort of a sugar daddy situation or whatever. Maybe the finances are there. And also, why do the kids know? Why aren't their last names Hollingsworth? Why don't they think that's their dad? Like, are they stupid? You know, because like you could fool me as a kid, right? But like the older I get, I'd be like, wait a minute, if my dad died 5 years before I was born, cum ain't that good, you know? I'm like, just don't do that. Maybe today you got a freezer, you splooge in it, and then a couple years later someone can use it. But in the 1800s, they didn't even have they had ice boxes, I think, you know? It's like, that's not. But so then I start researching my new grandpa's dad. I research Sam Hollingsworth, and I find out that this old fuck had already had a family. Back in the 1840s, he already had a wife and a bunch of kids. And you want to know what his kids' names were? Wiley and John and Elkanah and Samuel. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Is this motherfucker just doing a reboot of his family? And I was livid. I could not stop. I called my mom up. And I'm like, Mom, you're not going to fucking believe this. Sam Hollingsworth got a new family again. And she's like, who are you talking about? Because we are not up to date. We have not spoken since, you know. And she's like, and I'm explaining it to her, and she's like, oh, that's crazy. So we're Hollingsworths. And I was like, looks like it, you know. And then I keep doing research on him, and I see that he's got a son named Samuel Hollingsworth Jr., okay? And so I'm like, well, what's this fucking asshole up to? And I look and see him, born in Illinois, actually raised in the same town as Oliver and Dicey. Same age as them. And I'm like, well, that's crazy. Then I see the muster rolls for the Civil War, which are the reports of when you signed up the same day at the same station in Peoria that Oliver signed up for the Civil War. And then immediately it made sense. I was like, they're buddies, that's it. Oliver and Sam Jr. Hollingsworth were friends. And they joined the army together, and then when fucking Oliver's just on that toilet dying his ass off, he's yelling out the door, Sam Jr., please take care of Dicey with your wiener. And he's like, I will, brother, you know, and he's like, oh, it's good, dude, you're good, dude. And so that's what I was like, that's it. And that would make sense because, you know, it's fucked up if you name your new kids after your already kids. But it's not as weird to name your kids after your uncles, you know, and maybe yourself, Samuel, you know. And so I was like, well, that's gotta be it, man. But then I'm like, well, why the fuck isn't he there? You know, why isn't he living there? And I see that he's still living in their hometown. He never went to Missouri. And then I figured it out. Sam Jr. was also a piece of shit. Like Ralph. He just fucking splooged in Dicey a bunch, and I'm sure they had fun, okay? You know what I mean? I'm sure the sex was good and consensual and cool. But he's like, I can't be a dad. So he fucking fucks off back to his hometown, and then his dad has to raise it. Just like Wiley had to raise my grandpa. And I was like, that's gotta be it. And I'm looking deeper. I'm looking for journals and diaries. And I'm trying to figure out, is this true? Is this who Dicey fucked? And if she fucked Sam Jr., when did she start fucking Sam Jr.? Was this like a tryst from youth? Is this like a cool movie we could sell to Amazon Prime once I get, you know, Final Draft paid for again? But I'm still wearing the weeds of it. And then I find this book. It's like, it's not a diary, but it's like the history of the county they lived in. And I'm looking through Dicey, and I see her name along with this guy named Gary. And I'm like, oh my God, did Dicey also have a tryst with Gary? I think Dicey fucking Gary. Maybe Gary's actually Sam Jr.'s dad. We don't know, you know. And that's what I was doing, and I was going fucking nuts. And I loved it because, like, when you're looking at all this stuff, turn your fucking phone off. I'm not kidding. I cannot have my show. You guys hear something?
Hello.
Oh my God.
Patrick, hello.
What the fuck? Well, this doesn't happen. Usually I keep going exactly the way I've been going. You guys eat it the fuck up. And then I do a really good pitch to put cash in the bucket. But, hello? Who is this? What's happening? You're wrecking my show.
Me, Dicey Jane Moore. Your grandpa's mom.
Oh my God.
I have found a way to send my voice back to the land of the living to give you an important message.
Oh my God, Grandma, are you gonna tell me? Are you gonna tell me who you fucked? Who my grandpa's dad really is? This is amazing. Oh my, yeah, what's your message? Tell me your message. Tell us all 150 of us. I'm taping tonight, right now. There's gonna be a special AI will come in and make more people, okay? Not artificial intelligence, no. It's, you guys know that basketball player, Allen Iverson? He's my producing partner, and he's really good at, like, Photoshop and shit. That's really good because sometimes people don't know Allen Iverson, and I gotta say a different celebrity with an AI name, and so I say Andre Iguodala, but he's just another basketball player, and then nobody fucking knows who that is either. But, oh my God, Dicey, what's your message? Tell me, please.
My message is this. Patrick, my son's grandson's grandson.
Say it, Grandma.
What is your fucking problem?
What? What do you mean?
Why are you doing this? Why are you blowing up my spot? Why don't you just shut the fuck up and tell jokes about something else? Why are you telling the whole world my business?
The fucking whole world. I mean, I'm not trying to blow up your spot or whatever. It's just, this is like a cool, it's personal, you know? That's why. It's
Oh, this is personal?
Yeah.
How is this personal? You didn't even know who the fuck I was until 6 months ago.
Yeah, that's true. But like, you're my, whatever, grandma or whatever the hell. Like, it's like a family story, you know? And I want to connect with that at Fringe.
If you wanted to do a personal family story, why not talk about how John Wayne Gacy killed your cousin Tim?
Okay, because whenever I tell people that the serial killer John Wayne Gacy killed my cousin Tim, which he did, they do what you guys are doing, okay? They get really intrigued and excited, and then they get really fucking sad, okay? It's not a happy story, you know? Yeah. That's not what I wanted to do. The show, I wanted it to be like a fun and funny show, you know, Dicey? For Fringe, that's what I thought I could do.
Oh, okay, you didn't want it to be a sad show. You wanted it to be something fun and funny.
Exactly what
So
I
it's
said.
fine to disparage me and go on stage and tell strangers everything about me. You know, like how my husband, the love of my life, went off to fight in a war, only to die shitting himself to death. Wow! Isn't that so fun and funny?
It's not like that. Fuck, dude. I understand where you're coming from. I didn't really think of your side of it. But festival sucks so much. It's so hard to do the Fringe. And when you're an American, it's work. Because I've been doing stand-up forever. And if I wanted to switch gears to just do a stand-up set, you'd all be fucking loving it, you know? But I wanted to come here with a new thing. I recorded an album, and it was like my first 15 years of stand-up, and I was like, this is it. This is the greatest hits. And then, like, I found out about this fucking slutty stuff, and I was like, that's my Edinburgh. Let's go, you know? And then, I'm not kidding. 4 days into the show, Robbie!
Yeah.
He can attest to this. That's my drummer, Robbie, in the back. There's a drum solo later. I was like, this fucking sucks. This show's so stupid. Who cares? Who gives a shit about any of this, you know? I just wanted to do this show, and so I'm sorry if I've disparaged you. It's not what I wanted to do. That wasn't the plan, Dicey.
It's okay, because really you're not exploiting my story.
Oh, phew, okay, cool.
Because you only know 3 things about me.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I had a whole life.
Sure.
I had children who loved me. I had friends. I had hopes and dreams and goals.
Yeah.
And you don't know about any of that. You can't take that from me. All of that, that's who I am, regardless of what the fuck you think. And you have that too. You have your story, and there are the things that you share on stage in your so-called stand-up skits.
That's not what we
The
call
things that you talk about, that you're passionate about, that you say to a mic. But there's so many things that you don't talk about. There's so many personal things that never come up. Like how somehow your penis can't get hard anymore, but you still find a way to masturbate all the time.
Oh, shut up, lady!
See? It doesn't feel good when people share your bullshit with strangers. strangers, doesn't it?
Alright. Can I tell you guys the story I should have brought to Fringe?
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you guys the story. This is. I don't give a fuck about all of this. Oliver doesn't affect me. Okay, Dicey doesn't affect me. I'm gonna tell you guys about Johnny Moore. Is that okay? That's my grandpa. Okay, that's my mom's dad. And Johnny Moore, he kicked ass. He was a great man. He was born in 1920, raised by his grandpa. He joined the army on the day Pearl Harbor was attacked. Afterwards, you know. Yeah, it'd be fucked up if he joined that morning and it was like, no, fuck. No, he joined afterwards and he got shipped off to Europe. You know, where potentially he was going to get blown up or like fucked up. And it's kind of ironic because when I was 21, I also came over here to Europe, you know, to get blown up and fucked off. You know? But he was in all these different battles. He was at Normandy, at the Battle of Normandy. Like, you know, like have you seen Saving Private Ryan, that movie? In Saving Private Ryan, the boat at the beginning that Tom Hanks' character is in is the same boat my grandfather was in. It's the first boat of the second wave. And so my grandpa was in that, and so when you watch that movie, you're like, holy shit, how did he make it through that, you know? Also, that is true, and in that movie, Tom Hanks' character's name is John Morgan, and my grandpa's name is John Moore, and so I've got litigation going against Spielberg. I have for several years. Fingers crossed. But that was the boat, and there's this story, like a good family story about how when they were in the boat, and they're coming up to the island to just go to be fucking annihilated by the Nazis, one of the other guys in the boat looks at their sergeant and goes, "Hey, Sarge, how are we going to get through this?" And the sergeant goes, "I'm going to glue my ass to Johnny Moore because if any of you idiots are going to make it up the hill, it's going to be him." And that's like a cool story, right? A family cool. But also Johnny told us that story, so that could be bullshit. You know? He could have been in the corner like pissing, shitting, and crying and being like, "No!" We wouldn't know. But he did make it to the top of the hill. He lived. He was in Paris when it was liberated. He was in France, and when I was a little kid, we were always told never ask Grandpa Johnny about the war. Never bring it up. And I always just kind of assumed it was because war is hell. You know, that's what everybody says. Turns out, I found out a couple years ago, the reason you shouldn't bring the war up to my Grandpa Johnny was because if you did, all he'd do is be like, "I fucked so many women in Paris. When we liberated them, we kicked the Nazis out and just started getting pussy." And he would just say that to anyone. It didn't matter if you were in kindergarten or not, you know? Loved it. Loved him. He was great. He was a great man. He got out of the war, came home, started a family. My mom is his youngest child. I was the youngest grandchild in the family. And we had a great relationship, him and I. Good dude. He was so funny. He was always so kind and cute and nice. And he was missing this finger on his hand, his ring finger on his left hand. He didn't have it. And when I asked him what happened to it, he said that he was walking down the street and an eagle came down and bit it off. And so he grabbed the eagle and slapped it on his arm, and that's what his ugly-ass tattoo was. He had like one of those ugly-ass tattoos, you know? Like, it was blue and one of those tattoos where like if you see somebody get it now, you're like, "Oh no, we gotta call Trisha's brother. She's not doing good," you know? He had that in there, and I believed him for years, you know? I thought that was a true story. Turns out I found out the real reason why he didn't have this finger was he was a mechanic and he was working on a car's engine and he like bruised his knuckle and he goes, "Oh, god damn it." And the guy behind the wheel thought he said, "Hey buddy, start her up." And so that's what the guy did. And he just took his finger off, yeah. Which sucks, you know, but still, rather that than extreme diarrhea. But then it was great, and then by the time I was around him and like getting to really know him, I was in kindergarten. And my kindergarten, I think some of you guys call it nursery over here, the first level of school. When I was in that, my kindergarten was a block from my grandparents' house. So every day at lunch, when we queue up to go to the cafeteria, I just fucking leave. I just walk out the school's doors. I don't think kids can do that today. I think they're paying more attention. Kids can't just be like, "I'm no good to you, teach. Grandma's got tomato soup on, so I'll see you later." And then I go up to it and we'd eat dinner together, and he'd always share his coffee with me. He put so much milk and sugar in his coffee that it was almost like a sweet tea. And he'd always give me half of it, which I'm sure my kindergarten teachers loved when I got back to the school, you know? I'm already loaded for bear, and I'm just like a fucking coked out 4-year-old, like, let's go! And it was great, and he was funny. He was really funny. One time he asked me, he's like, Patrick, are you a Republican or a Democrat? And I was like, oh, I'm 4. I'm a Ninja Turtle, you know? I'm a Leonardo Rising, Raphael Moon, you know? And he's like, well, do you like poor people or rich people? And I was like, oh, that's easy. I like poor people, you know, because I'm a poor person. And everyone I've ever known is a poor person to this day. And he's like, good, you're a Democrat. And I was like, cool. And later I found out that it's a lot more fucked up than that, you know. And now I'm pretty much a socialist, which is sick as hell. And I'm legally required to tell you I can talk to you about it after the show if you want. But he was just a great man. He was so good and so funny and so loving. And it was cool, but he was old and he got sick, okay? And that's what happens, grandpas get sick, you know? And he got sick and he had to go to the hospital, and then he was just in the hospital, okay? And he wasn't getting out of the hospital. And my mom came to us and was like, listen, fucker! No, she came to us and she was like, everybody's got a job, okay? We all gotta do our job to help grandpa be okay. So my brother, Daniel, he's my older brother, his job was to listen anytime the doctors would talk, anything they'd say. He didn't have to understand it, but he had to pay attention so that he could repeat it in case somebody had a question. My sister, she's in the middle. Her job was to just do whatever Grandpa needed. If he had too many blankets, take one. If he needed an extra blanket, get him one. If he needed a cup of water, get it, you know? And then my job, I was in kindergarten, my job was to every night say a prayer for Grandpa Johnny, like an extra prayer. And I was like, I can fucking do that, you know? I'm great with words. And so what I would do is every night, my normal prayer was, now I lay me down to sleep, pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I die before I wake, God bless Mom and Dad, Kim and Daniel, and me. But then I had this extra thing. So at the end I would say, keep up the good work. And that was the addendum. That was my job. Clock in, clock out. That was me telling God, keep up the good work. And then my grandpa would keep being alive, and I was like, this fucking is easy. Okay? Religion's easy. I'm basically pre-med at this point. Like, life is good. And then time went on, like months went by, and we just kept doing it every night. I was like, keep up the good work, keep up the good work, and it was working. My kindergarten teacher, it was really funny, Miss Simonson, she was a cool lady, and do you guys know about Harlequin romances? Do you know what that is? Does that make any reference to you? And maybe it's just an American thing, but they're like romance novels that are like smutty books for moms when they're, you know, the dad stopped making them come. And they're good books or whatever, I guess. They got like Fabio on the cover and shit, and they're not porn. Don't think they're porn, okay? They're not gonna be like, he put his penis in her put. It's never gonna be like that. It's gonna be like, he put his stiff pistol in her flower mound, and then my mom's like, oh my god, you know? Like, and my mom loved these books. She had so many of them laying around the house, you know? But she was smart, and she knew she didn't want me looking at those books, you know, because I'd figure out my cock does, and she did not want that to happen. And so I was like, Mom, what are those books? And she's like, oh, you wouldn't like those books. Those are math books. And I was like, gross! Remember, I fucking hate math. and I was like, gross! And so I wasn't going to fuck with those books, but you know who loved math? My kindergarten teacher, Miss Simonson, she fucking loved, she talked about it every day for like an hour. And so I took one day, I was like, to get her on my side, I took like 5 of my mom's fuck books into school, and I just sat them on her desk, and I was like, hey, Miss Simonson, I think you're gonna love these. And she knows what they are. You know, she looks down and sees Fabio, you know, fucking shirtless, and is like, what the fuck? But here's the deal, I never got in trouble for that, which is cool, you know? I never got a call home or anything. Also, Miss Simonson never gave me the books back, so I think I just helped my kindergarten teacher get her groove back, which is kind of sick, you know? Cool. So time's going on. Keep up the good work, keep up the good work. And what happened was, my family, sorry, it gets emotional. The movie Kindergarten Cop came out on VHS, okay? You know Kindergarten Cop? Brother, you seen Kindergarten Cop?
I think so.
It fucking rocks, dude. If you think so, that means you should see it again. Have you guys all seen it? It's a fantastic movie, okay? It's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's like his first comedy. It's like an action movie, but it's a comedy, you know? It's so funny. It takes place in a kindergarten. What? That's where I'm at most days, you know? And my family rented it, and we all watched it, and it was so cool. Because it's got a lot of great lines. You might forget them, but it's like, it's not a tumor! That's in that movie. And like, boys have a penis, girls have a vagina! And, you know, and a little kid says that in the movie. But it's funnier to say it like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know? And so we loved it. Like, we were watching this movie, and we were crying, my whole family laughing. And it was the first time that, like, my dad and mom ever enjoyed a movie the same way that, like, me and my sister enjoyed it. You know, like, we were all on the same level. And it was just great, brilliant. And then when the movie ended, my dad, Carl, from the cow murder story, looks down at me and goes, "Do you want to watch that again?" I didn't even know that was fucking possible. I had specifically been told that VHS tapes were one and done, okay? Because one weekend I tried to watch Ernest Goes to Camp 340 times. And my dad's like, "Do you want to watch that again?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so he rewound it, and then immediately we started it again. And fuck, if you think that movie's pretty good the first time, the second time, immediately after the first time, that is the greatest viewing experience you'll ever have in your life. That's Avatar 4, okay? It was so fucking funny, because then we know what's happening. You're telegraphing every line. We're giggling, you know, we're like, "Oh God, Arnold, you're so dumb," you know? And like all my family on the edge of the couch, it's like a countdown, like 3, 2, 1. It's not a tumor! And then we all fucking fall on the floor laughing, you know, and it was amazing. But during this second viewing, I'm a little boy, it's been a long day, I conk out on the couch. I lean up on my mom's shoulder and just fall asleep. And the rest of them finished the movie, and when the movie's over, my dad just picked me up and carried me into bed and put me up to bed, and I just slept the night, you know? Next day, I go to school, I'm in my kindergarten, I'm like telling him the story, I'm like, "What would Miss Simonson do if Arnold showed up," you know? And then I come home, and it's winter in Iowa, but and usually it's really snowy and freezing, but it was beautiful out still. You didn't even need a jacket. And so I come home, and I walk in the house, and my dad's sitting on the couch, and I go, "Dad, I'm going to go outside and play until it gets dark." And he's like, "Cool. Go talk to your mom first." And I was like, "Okay." And I go looking for my mom, and I can't find her, which is weird, because it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I see that their bedroom door's closed. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I go in, the lights are off, my mom's in bed. And I'm like, "This is weird." And I was like, "Mommy, what's going on? Are you sick?" And then my mom says, "Your Grandpa Johnny died last night." And I fucking didn't know how to hear that. I didn't know how that could be. Because we were all doing our jobs, you know? Daniel was listening. Kim was being kind every fucking night. "Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work." And then it hit me. Not last night. I fucking fell asleep during the second showing of Arnold. I fell asleep during Kindergarten Cop 2. Part 2. You know, we watched it already. It's my fault. I killed my grandpa. Yeah, I killed Grandpa Johnny. And I realized it right there, standing in my mom's bedroom. I was like, "Fuck!" And I didn't say anything, because I was like, I gotta keep this in. I was like, So I just climbed into bed with my mom, and I cried myself to sleep. And then we woke up several hours later, and it was time for dinner or whatever, and we walk out, and I don't understand parents, especially my dad, Carl. But the first thing, we walk out, and my dad sees me, and the first thing he says is, "Hey, I thought you said you was gonna go outside and play all night." And it's like, "Hey, asshole, read the fucking room, okay?" So weird. And then I just fucking lived with that, okay? I lived knowing that I killed my grandpa, and I didn't want to talk about it, I didn't want to say it to anybody, I couldn't let it out, couldn't think about it. When we'd be at a family party and somebody would bring up Grandpa Johnny, I would just immediately start doing a funny dance or do an impression or do something silly, and that's how I became that's part of how I became who I am, like this idiot, this clown up here, you know? And it was because of that, because I just needed to change the subject. I couldn't even hear people talk about it. I couldn't be alone with my grandma. Even though I loved her and she was so sweet to me, I was always afraid that somehow she'd like see through me and know that I did that, you know? Like, I'd get in trouble, I'd get grounded because my room was dirty, And I'd be like, yeah, my room is kind of dirty, but I killed mom's dad, so I guess I'll put up with this. And my little brother Daniel would bully me. And did you have an older sibling?
Yes.
Did they bully your ass?
No.
Oh, brother, you got away good. Man, my brother bullied the shit out of me, and I would never tell on him. Because I was like, this is my penance, I deserve this, because of what happened with Grandpa Johnny. And here's one of the funniest things my brother ever did as a bully. Okay, you guys know about paper plates, right? Like if you go to like a barbecue, you have a paper plate. My brother told me that you could eat those. Yeah, he said that's what they were made for. It's like you have like a hot dog and you finish the hot dog and then you eat the plate and you were fucking fine, no trash. And he told me that and I believed him. And then he brought over 2 paper plates and he gave me one and then he quickly ate his and I was like, fuck, I guess. And then I started eating it and it didn't taste good, but like a lot of shit didn't taste good, So I was like, fine. And what happened was when he came over, he brought 1 paper plate and 1 flour tortilla, right? Like you would make a burrito out of. And I know you might be like, Patrick, those don't look anything alike. When you're a little boy and your brother's moving fast and then you go sit down, you buy it. And I bought it. And over my childhood, I ate a lot of paper plates. All the time. Sometimes just by themselves as its own snack. I'd like put peanut butter or ketchup on it and roll it up. Because fuck, bread has like 15 slices in a pack. These fuckers come in numbers of 100. And no one else in my family has a taste for them, so I get as many as I want. Like that's a good bully trick you did there, asshole. I'm not saying that that's why his marriage fell apart 27 years later. But it might be. And then fucking every night I go to bed. And that was the only time I would think of Grandpa Johnny. Because I was in bed, that's where I would do the praying. That's where I forgot to do the praying. And so I'd go to bed and I would just lay in bed. And back then we didn't have like earbuds, we just had our thoughts, the sounds of the night. And I would just lay in bed and I would sob thinking about my Grandpa Johnny. I'd just cry all night long until I fell asleep. And that happened, this all happened for 2 years. For 2 fucking years, I walked around with this. And my mom, one day, comes and picks me up from school. At this point I'm in 3rd grade, okay? And she picks me up from school, and on the way home, she's like, hey Patrick, I know you cry at night. Why are you crying at night? And I wanted to fucking avoid it. I wanted to make a joke or do a dance or a fucking funny voice to get away from it, but I couldn't. I was just in the passenger seat. And I thought about opening the door and letting the road take me, But that might hurt. And so I couldn't get away with it, so I just said the truth. And I was like, Mom, I cried because at night I'm thinking about Grandpa Johnny. And I think she liked that. I think that made her feel a little safer, a little better. And she goes, oh, that's fine. We all think about Grandpa Johnny. We always will. And I was like, yeah. Mostly I think about how I killed him. And my mom's like, what the fuck? You did what? No, she's like, what the fuck? And she pulled the car over. And she's like, what? And I was like, I killed him because we were watching Kindergarten Cop and it was great. And then we watched it again. And then I fell asleep and I didn't say keep up the good work. And my mom's like, what are you, that's not what happened at all. And I didn't know how to hear that, Like, I didn't know what the fuck that meant. Because at that point, that was such a huge part of me, being a person. Like, at that point, Patrick Hastie loves the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, okay? Loves Ernest Goes to Camp, all right? Loves eating paper plates, okay? And killed his Grandpa Johnny. That's who I was. And so when she's like, you didn't kill your Grandpa Johnny, I was like, what, really? What? And then it was all just off me at once. It was like lifting all these, like a backpack with 1,000,000 pounds just came off my body. And I was excited and happy. I was relieved. And I was too happy. I was like, what? What? I didn't kill him? And my mom's like, settle down, dude. He's still dead. And I was just like, if I didn't do it, my God, what did kill Grandpa Johnny then? If it wasn't me? And she just looks at me and goes, "It was a tumor!" No, she didn't do that. That'd be fucking insane if that's what she said. No. He had like blood in his lungs or something. I don't remember. Nothing my fault. I know that. And she's like, "You've just been walking around with that all these years?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Why didn't you say anything?" I was like, "Well, because I was afraid. I didn't want people to be mad or I didn't want people to think of me differently or dislike me." And she's like, "You can't do that." She's like, "If you have something you need to say, you gotta say it." And I was like, okay. And that's kind of how I am now. Like, that's the other part of me. Part of me I built because of the thinking I killed him. I need to change the subject. I gotta be a funny guy, a silly guy, a goofy guy. The other part of me is I gotta say everything. Like earlier, when I was like, "You're not liking this show?" I mean, that was just me being me, brother. I was just hoping you were okay. I got a fucking PS2 in the back. You can go back there and play it. Now he's like, "I do not like Family Trees. Give me back the Bandicoot." I said PS2? That's hilarious. But the other part of me, the talking, that's that day, that's what I became. And I think it's funny because I think it all kind of comes back to the last day I ever saw my Grandpa Johnny alive. We went to the hospital just to visit him, and I obviously didn't know it was going to be the last day. But we were sitting there and we were eating, I was eating a McDonald's Happy Meal. It was delicious. And I was having the cheeseburger ketchup only, you know how I do. And I kept slipping him fries. Because he was on a very strict diet. I just kept slipping him fries. Maybe that had something to do with this. I don't know. I don't think so, though. I don't think eating a fry leads to blood and lungs, but maybe. And when I was done eating, I got my toy out, and it was the movie Hook, you know? And I know Spielberg, but I'm going to let it pass for this, but I got the toy out, I couldn't put it together. It was Robin Williams riding this raft, and I just couldn't fucking get it together, and so I gave it to my grandpa, and like in a second, he put it together for me, and then gave it to me, and then I just ran around the room, and instead of like enjoying this time with him, which obviously I didn't know was the last, I was just like in Never Never Land, you know, just fucking around, being like, "Rufio!" You know, like having a whole experience. And then, when I started working on the show, and I was like, I'm going to do this bullshit about Grandpa's dad and all that stuff, I thought I knew what the show was going to be by the end of the month. And now I realize it's not. It's about this, and it's about who I am, and it's about how I became who I am. And specifically how I became who I am through my Grandpa Johnny Moore. And it doesn't have a lot to do with the family tree. It doesn't matter, you know? Once the information got to him, he knew to pass it on. It doesn't really matter how he got it. And so I kind of think of that as like, that's like the raft, right? Like that's like the base of the ship, right? And then when I thought I killed him and I had to become the clown, like that was like the sail, right? That was what was going to keep everything going and moving and just keep me moving along. And then when I found out and I realized I could talk, I had to talk a bunch and never keep anything inside, that was like me being the guy on the raft, the Robin Hood. Not Robin Hood, Peter Pan. Start over. My name's Patrick, I grew up on a farm. What about you fuckers? Okay. And now I can build the raft, right? Feels like something you'd see at Edinburgh, huh? I've had this every day since. I saw my grandpa. This little toy. Not really. I bought it on eBay. It was 95 cents. I thought about buying 30 of them because the first time I did the show, August 1st, or August 3rd, the first show, the reveal of opening it up was really cool. Yeah? And the two people at that show fucking loved it. So that's what this is for, and that's what this show is for, is my Grandpa Johnny. And if there is a moral or a bullshit thing at the end of this, it's that, be that person. If you're not a clown, if you're an introvert, my wife's an introvert, that's why she's on this show. It's because if I bring her up, she's going to be like freaking out about it. But if you're an introvert, be an introvert. But if you have a feeling about a friend or a family member or something, if you think they're mad at you, if you think you've done something that might hurt them, talk about it. Because the worst thing that can happen is that you're right, and then at least you know, and it's better to know than to just suffer without knowing, right? I don't know. I'm not a doctor, I'm just pre-med. Hey, Dicey! Dicey! Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
So I got to the show I wanted to do, so thank you for that. Thanks for interrupting. But now it's the end, and we're all in a weird space. I tried to make it sentimental, and it kind of worked. So I think it'd be neat if you could tell all 150 of us. Could you just tell us if I was right? Is it Hollingsworth? Or like, who did you fuck? Like, who is my grandpa's dad? Could you do that just to kind of bring it all around?
Alright, I guess at this point it doesn't fucking matter anyway. I'll tell you.
Yes.
Your grandpa's dad,
Mm-hmm.
the man who fathered my children, his name
Yeah.
was...
Mm-hmm.
Eat shit, bitch. Keep my name out of your fucking mouth and go mind your own goddamn business. Shit.
Give it up for Robbie in the back, goddamn it. Let him do it. That's my second. Thank you so much for coming. I'm not fucking around when I say this. This is my favorite performance of the show I've done. And I've done 345 performances. But I absolutely loved it. Also. Because in the end, I got to spend a month living in another country with like 5 of the funniest people in the world, you know, comedian friends, in a college dorm that was insane. And I met so many amazing artists, like comedians, writers, actors, clowns, fucking clowns, dude. I saw like 20 shows. Some really great, some really bad, but it was amazing. That part was amazing, you know? One day we went to the beach. Fuck. And it was the first time in my life where I had the freedom to spend every waking moment thinking about comedy. Or performing or art or you know, like I didn't have to think of anything else for this whole month, and that was special and cool, you know? And I guess most importantly is I wrote this show. It's funny and it's personal and I really like it. It's fucking weird and kind of dumb at times. It drags on purpose. That's hard to do when you got 8 people in the room to have a show that drags on purpose in parts, you know? But it taught me a ton about myself. Not just me, but like, not me as an artist or like a performer, but like as like a family member, as like a son, as a husband, as a, you know, a grandson. It really, I felt like I learned a ton about myself, which I think is hard to do when you're in your late 30s. I feel like you kind of already know who you are, you know?
Oh, yeah. What do you want me to do here?
I mean, I think you're doing it.
Is that a boomerang? Making a boomerang these days?
I've never seen a sandwich look like that.
That's a really awesome sandwich. That's a gross ass looking sandwich.
You've been with fruit for a day.
Great.
All right, your turn, Lucas.
Got it? Oh, I'm just gonna eat normal. Okay.